Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Kapansky, and thanks for joining us for today's best practice webinar. Today, we'll be talking about using AI to create authentic content at scale, brought to you by N2 and Wealthbox. Before we do get started, a couple of housekeeping items throughout today's presentation. If you do have any questions, feel free to type those in at the very bottom. You should see a Q&A button where you can type those in, and at the very end, we'll be able to address all of those questions. Also, keep in mind that this presentation is being recorded, so you will have the opportunity to rewatch or share the video with your colleagues in the future. Moving into some introductions, the host for today will, of course, be myself representing Wealthbox. For anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Chris Kapansky, Head of Customer Education here at Wealthbox. I've been with Wealthbox for over 9 years now, having the opportunity to work with thousands of firms, helping them get set up with Wealthbox and really get the most out of their CRM. And for anyone that's not familiar with Wealthbox, Wealthbox is the #1 rated CRM for financial advisors, known for its ease of use and high adoption. If you would like to see why so many advisors love Wealthbox, you can head over to wealthbox.com and click on book a demo to learn more. I am also joined by N2 co-founders, Nate Hoskin and Nick Meyer. I'll let you two introduce yourselves. I don't want to steal your thunder. Go for it.
Awesome. Chris, thank you so much for having us. We are so excited to be here. I will pull this up just really quickly, but I am Nate Hoskin. I'm one of the co-founders here at N2. I'm joined by Nick Meyer. I where to begin? Before N2, I built my own RIA, Hoskin Capital. I onboarded 172 clients over 9 months, and over 90% of them came from my short form video funnel. So I recently sold that firm to my employees. And since then, Nick and I have just really been helping advisors make videos. N2 Content Marketing has produced over 3,000 videos for advisors. We've garnered over 500 million views, which still feels pretty crazy to me. And we've partnered with some of the leading firms in the industry. And while I don't think that my 250,000 followers is anything necessarily to sneeze at, it is nothing compared to what Nick has been able to achieve with his platform, which is why I'm really glad we're working on this project together. So, Nick, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks, Nate. I am super excited for this because I get to nerd out on the two topics I've been absolutely obsessed with for the last couple years, really, which is short form video content, one, and then AI, two. So I'm super excited to get started.
Yeah, it has consumed most of our lives for the last couple of years, and I feel like we've learned so much along the way. So I'm so excited we get to share just as much as we possibly can with you guys in an hour.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for joining me. And before we do get into this conversation, since content creation might be something that's new to a lot of folks that are here, Nate and Nick put together a distinctionary that will help us understand some of those terms that will be used today. So, Nate and Nick, can you talk through some of these here?
Yeah, so flashy title to the webinar with lots of words that people do a really bad job of defining. So I could totally understand if you walked into this webinar saying, well, I have a general idea of what this is going to be about, but I want to make sure that we're really clear about our definitions. So when we talk about AI, artificial intelligence, we are specifically talking about large language models, LLMs, that let users enter prompts to receive human-like responses. Most of you have probably used ChatGPT. That is just the tip of the iceberg because ChatGPT within it has about 16 different models, not to mention things like Gemini and Claude and all of the other competitors in that space. That's what we're going to be talking about today and the ways to really maximize those tools. When we talk about making something that's authentic, this is something you would say that resonates with the person that you're speaking to. There needs to be both of those things. Think of it like a compliment. If I compliment Nick on his blue shirt, I might totally mean it, but he's not wearing a blue shirt. So even if it is something I would say, it needs to resonate with him. That's what makes something authentic. And content is just something you make and post online that entertains or educates other people. This can be any format. We'll talk about a couple of our favorites, but at the end of the day, that's what this is. And scale, making content at scale, is just minimizing the variable costs by making actions repeatable and using the right tools and systems, right? So with that, I think we can get in a little bit more. Back to you, Chris.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. That definitely does, at least personally for me, it prepares me, I think, with understanding some of these key terms. So starting at the very top, kind of even backing away from AI for a second, Nick, what is short form content marketing?
Yeah, so we're going to focus on short form for this presentation because we're basically known as like the short form video guys, but just understand that all the AI tips and tricks we're going to give you in this presentation do apply to long form content as well. And when we talk about short form video, it generally meets the three criteria that are on the screen, but an easier way to think about it is any video that you're watching on your phone, just like holding upright without turning it over horizontally, is going to be usually considered short form video content. This content is going to be fed to you across literally every single social media platform. So we're talking YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, and yes, even X/Twitter is moving more towards short form video content, which you never would have considered a couple of years ago. And it's not hard to see why people want to make it and why platforms want to promote it. If you look at all of those quotes down at the bottom from HubSpot, Sprout Social, Wise Owl, the ROI provided by short form video content is second to none currently. So it is the current hot form of content that people are loving to make.
Awesome. I still remember making fun of people for recording vertically. So I think that the times have changed. And I'm sure a lot of people that are here are already doing this, right? They're already following you guys and they might have already worked with you guys directly. But for anyone that is maybe still considering starting, Nate, we'll kind of hand it off to you. Why is it so important to advisors to consider this and to do this?
Yeah, I'm going to try not to get on my soapbox too much, but I genuinely think that this is one of the more important things that we can do as advisors because 95% of information shared in a video is retained by the viewer. And it makes sense. You remember 10% of what you see, 20% of what you hear, 30% of what you read. Video lets you do all of that all at once. So, of course, you're going to be retaining all of this information exceptionally well. And people aren't just retaining the information, they're using it to make decisions. 50% of investors say that social media impacts who they hire as an advisor. 20% say it's the sole deciding factor. So usually, this is the point where I'd go on a long tangent why you should totally use short form video for your firm, because it's true for all the reasons I just mentioned. But the true most important element of this is that people are making financial planning decisions based on information from unqualified, undesignated, and unlicensed people. You guys saw the video that was just playing from someone who does not have any sort of certification or license talking about infinite banking and IUL schemes. This is the type of thing that dominates short form video when we, as the fiduciary community, don't add our voice. We are the experts. And I want you to remember this when we talk about why people aren't doing short form video as advisors, because that's really the next thing, right? Why aren't advisors doing this? Well, sure, it's the tools. They're overly complex and they're non-specialized. So you always have to translate them into your specific use case. Doing that takes a lot of time. Spending the time on that learning curve is a challenge. And paying someone else to do it 100% is often prohibitively expensive, and all of those things can generally be overcome, but a lot of people really get stuck on compliance. But remember what I just mentioned about how there's all of this misinformation swimming around from the unregulated people, and the advisors are being held back. The SEC and FINRA and all of the state regulators know this, and they are in many ways encouraging advisors to market and make videos. We have always found that compliance is easier than advisors believe it to be. That has been our experience working with LPL and a lot of these other advisory firms that people think are pretty locked tight on compliance. And then the other one is just knowledge, right? Like just not knowing what you don't know and trying to find the resources to actually learn how to do video. So that's our hope for today. Show you some AI tools, show you how to make videos so you have a process that you can actually get started with. So Nick, would you be willing to take us through what that process actually looks like?
Yeah, so we're going to cover the 7-step video production process throughout this entire presentation from front to back, and specifically dive deep into these 4 highlighted areas where AI can do most, if not all, of the heavy lifting. So, Nate, why don't we get started with how to find your ideal client in the identify stage?
Yes, absolutely. So before you even start making a video, you need to know who you want to talk to, right? I think advisors get a lot of this pretty wrong because they focus on people instead of problems. So they'll pick their favorite client and say, well, My favorite client is 55, so I should probably work with more 55-year-olds. But we know that different people run into different problems at different moments in their life. So it's less about where they are in their life season and more about the problems that you solve as the advisor. So rather than necessarily saying, this is my demographic, it's more about these are the problems that I solve. And then when you're solving those problems for clients, what do you educate them on, right? If you educate them on it, you can educate others with short form video and they will realize they have that problem and understand that they have a need for your services. Or if you want a different method, you can choose your favorite client or family and ask yourself, what do they ask about? What are the questions that they ask? Can I answer those in a more broad format? Or even better, what should they be asking about? When I was making my first couple of videos, I was making them for my friends who weren't ready to have a really important financial conversation. They were the things that I wished I could have said to them, but they never asked me. There was never a reason for it to come up in conversation. It's a great way to understand who you want to talk to and what questions you want to answer for them. And then there's your invisible content. And the first thing I did when I tried to find my invisible content, my meeting notes, my transcripts, my timelines, my email conversations, was I pulled up Wealthbox. Chris, how do you see Wealthbox fitting into this?
Yeah, I think just CRM in general is a very important part of this because when it comes to identifying your ideal client, where do you have all of your client information? It's the CRM, right? So there's all the existing clients are already there, all the existing information is already there, whether you're basing this off of really any of these three buckets here, whether it be labels or categories on the client or categories within notes or even keywords within notes or any other custom fields you can leverage. And whether you're using Wealthbox or not, reporting your report system should be able to provide you with a really good insight on the data that is there. Reports can then be taken to the next level with visualizations. In Wealthbox, you could use charts and graphs. I know a lot of other CRMs have capabilities like that, or even dashboards to roll up all these different contact interests, professions, anything that you need to know to identify that ideal client profile. So yeah, CRM plays a really big part in this first step.
It really does. And for any of you guys who are using Wealthbox, and maybe this is possible in other CRMs, I'm not entirely sure, but I have what's called problem tagging. So I won't just tag a client as a client or as the pricing tier they're in. I'll tag them based on RSUs, Roth conversions, that kind of thing. So when I'm visualizing in Wealthbox, I'm visualizing based on problems, not just demographics. I would highly recommend going nuts with the tags. It makes the AI for reports so valuable because then you can just go in and create a comprehensive report really quickly, eliminating that need for all the manual data entry and complex formatting. This is the first AI tool I would totally recommend using, is using your CRM to get the information you need. But we're not stopping there. We're just getting started because these two tools we use with pretty much all of our clients. When we do funnel design, when we talk about who they actually want to work with, I will just send them these prompts and they have loved it. So I want to share it with you guys. First one is you can do a website synthesis. So what this does is you actually distill your website into a JSON format. Why the heck would you do that? You already have your website. Well, it's so it can be easily interpreted by an LLM and used for future prompts. Hold on to that because you guys are going to need it for later when Nick's talking about ideation. The same thing goes with the ideal client exercise. So big marketing firms that charge $250,000, $500,000 a year, the first thing they'll do is interactive discovery. They will charge thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars to do this part in the process. You can just use ChatGPT to do it. So two things I would totally recommend. I have these prompts. I'm going to send them to you in the follow-up email so that you guys can just plug them right into ChatGPT and get started with both of these and use them on the next part. Nick, talk to us about ideation, step 2.
Yeah, so once you identify your target audience and what problems they solve, it's time to jump into ideation, which is just a fancy way to say like determining what videos you're going to make. When advisors come up to us initially, they're usually pretty skeptical like of them even having enough content to consistently post videos. They're like, well, there's like 15 to 20 things that I really want to talk about, but then what? I post 20 videos and I'm done. Like, where will the rest of my content come from? when we actually start the ideation process, that theory gets dispelled immediately because they're like, oh, okay, there are so many things to talk about. A lack of ideas will never be a reason that I don't make content. So let's first do a manual ideation example, then we'll jump into exactly how to do this effectively with AI. So old school way, let's say you identified that your target audience is pre-retirees, you work really well with them, and one big problem that you talk to them about are catch-up contributions. Instead of leaving it at that and just making one video on catch-up contributions, you can make 5+ different video categories about catch-up contributions. So number one, strategy breakdowns. What do you typically counsel your clients to do about catch-up contributions? Number two, you can make multiple videos, each answering a single question that clients typically have about catch-up contributions, because if they have it, viewers will too. Three, you could identify light bulb moments, which we define as basically when you're explaining a complex topic to one of your clients and the way you phrase something makes them light up with understanding, like they finally get it. If you use the same phrasing in an explainer video on your social media, a lot of the viewers will have that same light bulb moment experience. So you're really going to break through with them. Number four, opinions. So catch-up contributions are more of like a, hey, people pretty much they all understand they're a good thing. But if you were someone who's like, no, catch-up contributions, you should not be doing these, or you're on the other side where like, yes, catch-up contributions, you should always do these. Opinion-based videos are really strong. They drive really strong engagement. And number five, these are my favorite category of videos because they're going to be unique to you and they're oftentimes super compelling story-based videos. So if you have a story of a client who underwent a transformation as a result of at the start of the story, not understanding like what catch-up contributions were or how to implement them, and they transform into like retiring on time or hitting their savings goals, et cetera, by the end of it, because you help them implement catch-up contributions and like help them explain what they were. That's super compelling. That's really going to break through and make you unique in the sea of content that's out there. So if you do this, not just for one topic of catch-up contributions, but for the 20, 50, like 100 topics that you typically talk about with your clients, you can quickly see how this is going to be an overwhelming amount of video ideas and a number that you're just never going to fully get through. All right, now we know how to do that manually. Let's jump into how to do it with AI. Right next to that red X up there is what I call level 0 of using AI, which is opening up a chat bubble inside of ChatGPT and then giving it like a quick request with zero context and like zero in-depth instructions. Just asking ChatGPT, like, give me 5 video ideas is basically the equivalent of walking outside and yelling at people the same thing. And like sometimes you might get good little nuggets that you could use, but most of the time these will completely lack context. So therefore they're going to just not, they're going to miss the mark. They're just not going to be good, usable video ideas. Instead, we're going to go to level 1 of using AI. Now, mind you, we're going to go up to level 3 throughout this presentation. So this is still pretty basic. This is still entry level. Level 1 is what we call prompt engineering. A prompt is simply what you message in your first message to an AI model at the start of a chat. So it's nothing too complex. Inside of a perfectly engineered prompt, you're going to want to include very, very detailed instructions, including what the AI model is, like what role are they acting as. You can see in our example, we're telling them they're an expert video script writer. Like give them this persona and they're going to perform better. And then also obviously explain exactly what you want them to give you, but also the format that you want them to give you it in, like including an outline, which we want to have for video ideas so we can see exactly what the video is about beyond just the title. And this is where Nate's website synthesis and ICP description from the prior slides come into play when you're giving your prompt context. If you give them your firm details and details about your ideal viewers, this is going to make a world of difference when it comes to the ideas that it's going to spit back out at you. So level 0, just throwing words at a large language model, hoping it gives you something that's semi-usable, which usually doesn't work. Level 1 is using prompt engineering and getting a much more personalized result. But still, I mean, you could expect about 25% to 50% of these results to actually be usable at the end of the day, which we will increase those percentages further along. I will promise you that. But before we go into level 2s and level 3 of using AI, Nate, how in the world do we approach writing short form video scripts?
Yes, so I would say the 2 most crucial pieces of content creation for you to use AI in are going to be ideation and scripting. So we're going to really focus on these 2 when we talk about the best practices behind leveraging these models. But first, I want to give you a framework for writing every single script. So even if you're handwriting them, you should still make sure you are checking these off. And the reason this is so important is because if you don't know how you want your script to be structured, it would be crazy to assume that the LLM does. So you need to understand it first so you can provide good instructions to the LLM and get the output that you're actually chasing. As always, everything starts with a hook, particularly with short form video. You need to capture attention within the first 3 to 5 seconds. So this is going to be responsible for 80% of your video's success. It deserves 80% of your attention. Then I really like to have an authority line, especially if you are talking to brand new viewers, because if you make a claim and then they have no reason to know that you are an expert in this, they might not give credence to the things that come next. So it is worthwhile to say, as a financial planner managing hundreds of millions of dollars, whatever it happens to be that is your authority line, but get through that as quickly as humanly possible to keep your time to value very, very low. So time to value is just how much time is between the beginning of the video and the moment where someone actually gets something they can use. Some truly beneficial, valuable piece of information that isn't just the setup to the video. Time to value should be as low as possible. And then once you get there, your value per second should stay very high. You can see in this video example, we have the hook and the authority line that are very short. And then after the authority line, it is back-to-back bullets where we are delivering value as quickly as humanly possible, right up until the very end of the video, which is the call to action, inviting them to do something. This can be just about anything. The things that we like most are soft asks, so like and follow, then a lead magnet. So something that they can provide their email for in return for value. And then if you have some bottom of funnel, more complicated topics that you want to cover, having a call to action like schedule a call is totally worthwhile in there. So now that you know the structure, how the heck would you communicate this structure to an LLM in a way that it can keep and hold on to so that you don't have to repeat ourselves? Nick, it's an open-ended question, but I know you've got me on this one.
Yeah, so if we were trying to use level one prompt engineering here, this is going to get one super difficult because there's just so much information you're going to want to feed the AI model. And two, it's going to be really, really time consuming for you because you're going to have to repeat yourself every single time you start a new chat, which is why level two of using AI is using projects. Now, projects are like dedicated workspaces that you can currently access inside of both ChatGPT and Claude, which is a ChatGPT competitor if you haven't heard of it. These dedicated workspaces have their own instruction sets and their own knowledge bases that they reference every single time you enter a chat inside of that project. So if we go back to our level one example, if we just input that instruction set into here, into this project, that means that every single time we go in there, we could use like a level zero input of give me 5 video ideas, and it would read the instructions to know exactly what you're talking about and give you a pretty decent answer. So if we jump into the middle picture here, this is a picture of our current scripting project inside of Claude. You can see we have our instruction set up there, which just for your information is about 25 to 30 times longer than the one we just showed you for ideation for level one. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm saying that to tell you that like you should tell it every single thing, like down to the most minute detail of what you want it to do inside of like every single task that you have it do, so it doesn't get anything wrong, doesn't mess up. Because I mean, ideally, it still will. As you can see, projects do help these AI models hallucinate less. Which, if you've ever used AI models, you know that sometimes they just confidently tell you the wrong answers. That still happens a little bit in projects, but fortunately, it's a lot less than it would in normal AI chats. So we have our instruction set, and then down below those 3 documents that you see in those squares are what we call our knowledge base. These are documents that are referenced every single time you submit a chat. The 3 that are shown, first one is our 2025 financial data master document, which we include because a non-negotiable for us in our scripts is to make sure that every single piece of like tax bracket information, standard deduction limits, retirement account contribution limits, etc. These are all correct. We want to make sure they're all correct. And if you don't include this document, yeah, the AI models are usually going to get them right, but a lot of the times they're trained on prior year data, and that's like the last time they access like 401k contribution limits, etc. So they're not going to get them right, and they could tell you prior year information. So save yourself some trouble, give it a master data document, and that won't happen. The middle document there is what we call our script training document. This is 700 lines of example video scripts that are high performing video scripts for financial advisors that we are feeding it to learn from, like the format we use and the style of our content. Now, it's important to note that in our instruction set, we say do not copy any of this content because we want all of our new scripts to be unique. We don't want any copies of old content because that's going to start to get very stale very quickly. But this teaches the AI model exactly what we want. And so does the final document in there, what we call our N2 script training document. This is a document Nate and I sat down and created a couple months ago, a couple dozen pages, basically going through our entire strategy behind scripting short form videos that we've learned through creating thousands upon thousands of them. So these three combined with a big instruction set gives this model enough context for you to give those level 0 inputs. And in this case, give you pretty good scripts as an output. Now, it is important to note that, let's say the level 1 models, the level 1 way of using AI gave you like a 50% of the way there output. On the higher end, this will give you like a 70 to 75% of the way output. It is important to note we still have to hire script writers here at N2 to finalize these in order to make them client ready. But this is a great step forward from level 1. But what is an even bigger step forward is level 3, which is the current top echelon, the top way you can use AI right now, AI agents. Now, if you guys have been exploring AI at all throughout this year, AI agents have been a huge buzzword, but people don't really explain what they are most of the time. So I'll provide a great analogy that I like to use to explain the value proposition of AI agents. So you can think of your normal chatbots like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, etc., as hiring an intern. So you can give them as much context as humanly possible. You can try to train them as much as humanly possible. But at the end of the day, they're only going to retain a small amount of that information. And no matter how good your input is, they're going to give you outputs that are hit or miss. So sometimes you're like, okay, this is like 70% of the way there. I can make some edits to this and it's going to be good to go. I'm ready to use this in my content. Other times it's going to be easier to just delete the entire thing and just start from scratch and just build it all yourself. AI agents, on the other hand, you can think of them like seasoned senior employees. Their context windows are much bigger, so you can shove as much information into them as humanly possible, and they're going to be able to retain it. They're going to be able to understand exactly who you are, who your business is, what your thoughts and opinions are on different topics. Plus, I would argue more importantly, they're able to be expertly trained on the exact task that you need them to do. So in this case, this is video scripting. So even with one of those level 0 inputs, your output's going to be like 95+% of the way there whenever it's given to you. Like there might not even be any edits that you need. So AI agents are a lot more powerful. They're very complex. Like we spent the last couple months working deeply with a team of developers to help code up the AI agents we use. So unfortunately, this isn't something you can just like go into ChatGPT and type in like build me an AI agent and it'll give you something. It's not quite there yet. It's not as easy as projects either. But one of the big selling points of AI agents is they're not limited to one AI model. So for example, our scripting agent has access to Claude, Gemini, and ChatGPT, so 3 different AI models. Plus it has access to its own tool belt, which normal chat models just simply don't. So for example, the most used tool for our scripting agent is what we call validated web search using Perplexity. If you guys have ever used ChatGPT or Claude to try to run like reference checks or get new information on breaking news, it usually gives you something, you're not sure how correct it is, and then you click the links that it provides you as like part of its reference material, and the links are broken and like the web pages just don't exist. Perplexity is the best web search tool that we have found to give you a really large amount of really valuable real data, plus the actual links to the reference material, which is pretty important when you're making videos as a financial advisor. You want to make sure whatever you're referencing is correct. So again, not the easiest things to access currently. Spoiler alert, we've built some. We're going to make them available to you, but that's to be covered later on in the presentation. So for now, Nate, how in the world do we go about organizing our content?
Absolutely. And if you guys want to go down the agent rabbit hole, I hope that most of the logos in the top corners of these slides are recognizable, but the two from the last slide were Lindy AI and N8N. N the number 8 and then N again. So if you guys want to dive down that rabbit hole, it is definitely an option for you. It's not to say it's impossible, but it is like that would be a dedicated effort. I'll say that much. So let's talk about organizing content a little bit. What you guys are looking at is my Notion. So I mentioned at the beginning that advisors are dealing with overly complex, non-specialized tools. Notion is a perfect example of this because I essentially had to take this broad tool and work it and work it and work it until it actually worked for my specific use case. So this is how I've set it up, and you guys can do the same. Starting with the idea, as we mentioned in ideation, you need a title and a couple of bullet points. The script is where you write it out, and then you sit down to record, which we'll talk about in a sec. You'll add in your captions, your video descriptions, your posting times and your platforms, and then you'll get the video edited. Whether you hire someone on Fiverr to do the editing for you, you do it yourself, however that takes shape, you need to track it through each level of the process. Otherwise, the ideas will just never actually become posted videos. And I can tell you that all the ideas that are currently sitting in that column have never done anything for me or my business. They just sit there, right? So making sure you have a way to organize and get them through is absolutely essential. It also helps with those compliance concerns, right? What do we as advisors need to do in order to retain compliance? Well, we have our books and records requirements. We need to retain essential information about all of our marketing materials. Videos are considered marketing materials, even under the SEC new marketing rule, which broke out general education as something that is not considered advisor marketing. So even then, because these are designed to solicit, we need to think about compliance, which means we need to know when it was approved, who approved it, where it's getting distributed to, what the actual archived asset is, and when it was posted. And then to make it easy to respond to a regulation or an examination request, we need an ability to export it as a CSV, right? That way you can just provide a single element to make sure that you are delivering to them, but you're also not making it too complicated for yourself. So I always use Notion, but prepping for this webinar, Chris, you brought up projects in Wealthbox and I hadn't tried it at all. So I'm curious to hear about that.
Yeah, certainly. So I think when it comes to organizing, really anything that is internal, anything that has nothing to do with the client, projects in Wealthbox, and this is again specific to Wealthbox, but I'm sure it does apply to other CRMs as well that might have some sort of a universal wildcard where you could put these internal things. You can essentially track your content initiatives and standardize the video planning process within a project by creating workflows. Right? A lot of overlap is happening here with there being a ton more capabilities that might work for you within Notion, within a lot of other tools like Asana, but within Wealthbox, if you're already familiar with Wealthbox, you're already familiar with workflows, that is something that you can very easily really lean into and have that same familiarity when it comes to reports for compliance and just keeping it all in one place. So I just wanted to throw my hat in the ring as we're talking about the as Wealthbox is a really good place to organize that content as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, especially when you have the flexibility to add in different fields, that kind of thing. Absolutely a great use case. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pass it over to you, Nick, because you have the recording setup that has clearly been unbelievably successful. You know how to post, you've proven it with 1.8 million followers. So, I'm just going to let you run with it.
Yeah. So unfortunately, recording is not a segment of the content creation process where AI is going to be helpful at all. We're probably going to have to wait till like robots are available that know how to operate cameras for this to be outsourced. So we're probably going to skip through this pretty quickly here, and we've dove deep into this topic and all the nitty gritty tips and tricks of recording with our other our webinars with Wealthbox. So if you want to learn more, definitely go ahead and check those out. They're linked on our website. I'm sure they're linked on Wealthboxes as well. But we will still cover the need to knows. So the need to knows of setting up your studio, you're going to need three things if you want to look really good on camera and sound really good. One is obviously a recording device that's right in front of you. That can either be a recent model phone or a mirrorless camera. Two, you're going to want a high quality microphone that plugs into it because if your audio quality is bad, no one's going to watch your video no matter how good it looks. And three, speaking of making your video look good, lighting is the biggest lever you can pull. We recommend using two softbox lights about 45 degrees either side of you, both of them pointed at your face. We like softboxes because if you just try to use like normal light panels, the light on your face is going to be super harsh. Both Nate and I are using softboxes right now. I don't know if Chris is, looks like he is, but they are great lighting tools to make sure that you come across well on camera. If you do not want to like invest a ton of money into your recording setup, if you haven't made any videos before and you just want to like basically do a proof of concept, this is the exact same setup that Nate used to get his first 200,000 followers on social media. And assuming you already have a recent model smartphone, you can get this for like $200. So it's nothing that really is, it's not something that's unapproachable for basically any financial advisor that sees this. The most important thing again is that microphone. The Rode Video Mic Me is awesome. It still has some of the best audio quality we've even seen, even from our like compared to our $1,000 studio mic. It's very comparable. It's not like a 10x difference like the price would make, or a 100x difference like the price would make it seem. Next up, lighting stand is optional, so you can go all in for about $200 and get really good quality. But That's not to say that we don't recommend investing in quality. We practice what we preach here. I mean, this is the exact setup that we use for our N2 clients that fly out to record with us in Denver. And as you can see, it's a little bit more expensive than Nate's original setup was. This is something that if you really want to invest in content, it will pay off, because one thing we like to say is it's very, very hard for financial advisors to compete on quantity of videos that they produce, but it is a lot easier to compete on quality. And especially since we're in such a high trust industry like financial advisory, the better you come across on camera, the more intentional your videos feel, the more people are going to trust you and be more likely to actually take actions like downloading your lead magnets, following you, and ultimately becoming your clients if they're qualified. Okay. I told you that was going to be quick. Again, if you have any questions about recording, we have a ton of other material on that you could go dive into. After you record your videos, it is time to edit them. And thankfully, just in the last couple months alone, AI has made huge strides in the world of video editing, which I am so thankful for, because this is by far and away one of the most manual parts of the whole video creation process. And the biggest benefactor that we've seen of the AI rollout in the world of video editing is the platform Descript that you can see on the right there. Descript is awesome because they have this on-platform AI named Underlord that can automatically do things like remove retakes, remove filler words like ums, likes, and uhs, remove dead air. So if you just take a bunch of time in between each of your scenes, it can automatically take that out. It can automatically add captions, center the active speaker, and it even has that one feature where, like, if you're looking off camera, it can make your eyes look like they're looking right in the center of the camera, which honestly, not quite there yet. Looks kind of creepy if you use it, so I would definitely exercise caution there. But that just shows the frontiers that they're pushing with this sort of AI-enabled editing. Though I will caution you against this, because you do still need a baseline level of video editing knowledge in order to expertly use something like Descript, in order to see where the AI fell short when it came to editing, or what it just couldn't handle. So if you don't have an eye for that, your videos might end up looking like they were edited by AI, which currently is not a great thing. And unfortunately, as of right now, Descript does not have a magic button where you just upload your raw footage and click a button to edit the entire thing and it spits out a perfectly edited video. It will still take you at least half an hour to edit a video that's going to end up being 60 seconds long. And that's assuming you do already have video editing knowledge. So this is why we will continue to recommend, if you are a financial advisor, one of the highest leverage things you can do in your content creation workflow is outsourcing your video editing to someone who does it better than you, who has a cheaper hourly rate than you, and someone that's just going to save you so much time. Because if it takes you 30 minutes to an hour to edit every single one of your videos, and you want to post 4 or 5 times per week, that's going to be a huge drain on your time, and you're just not going to be able to stay consistent with that while you are also still serving your clients at a really high level. All right, you edited your videos. Now it is time to actually post them. People ask us all the time, like, hey guys, is there a secret ingredient to posting that we need to know about? And the short answer is no, but there is a 4-step posting recipe that you should follow. Number 1 in the 4-step recipe is just simply don't worry about magic posting times. They simply do not exist. As long as you post while your ideal client is likely to be awake, and hopefully even better on their phone, you're going to do just fine. Number 2, please, along the same lines of outsourcing your video editing, please invest a couple bucks a month into a scheduling software that posts your videos across the different social media platforms. There is no reason you should go in there and manually post all of your videos. I will caution you, a lot of these do end up messing up things like descriptions when they end up posting on a certain platform. The one that we personally use at our agency at N2 for dozens of financial advisory clients is Vista Social. Try them out. If you like them, cool. If not, try it other platforms. Number 3, everyone in here should understand the benefits of diversification, at least when it comes to the world of investing. Video content is the exact same thing, especially with short form videos. The same format of video can be posted across like 6 different social media platforms. So if you make the piece of content and you aren't barred from compliance from posting it everywhere, why would you not increase the surface area of potential reach that video could get? Like we just spoke to a couple of financial advisors earlier this morning that we're working with, and they thought they only really wanted to post on YouTube and maybe LinkedIn. And we found out that the lack of wanting to post on other platforms wasn't compliance related. So we're like, well, do you guys want to potentially reach your future clients that may be on X, that may be on Instagram, that may be on Facebook? Yes? Okay, cool. We should post there too. There's no downside to it. Then number 4, this came straight from my TikTok and YouTube reps. Please limit the amount of hashtags you use to 5 maximum. This is no longer 2015, where if you post an Instagram post, if you want to get the maximum amount of engagement, you should have 45 hashtags on it. That will only confuse these new ranking algorithms that every single social media platform puts out there. Like, you don't even need hashtags anymore, but we still recommend about 3 to 5, 4 to 5, just to make sure that something is categorized in there. All right, Chris, you're an outsider looking at this from a different point of view than us. If you watch this entire presentation, do you feel like you could confidently stitch together all these different AI methods and tips and tricks to create a nice video production workflow?
100%. I mean, and I'm already a little involved in video creation just here at Wealthbox. So, but just taking a step back, this sets you up. This is all you really need.
Hmm.
So, I mean, we had to ask the question, and I asked Nick this a little tongue in cheek, but I was like, why did we just spend the last 2 years becoming AI specialists? Aren't we doing video? Like what, how did we end up going down this rabbit hole? And it makes perfect sense when you realize kind of what's going on for advisors right now. Justin, one of my good friends here, I'm wondering if he's in this. Justin, if you're in this webinar, pipe up. I'd love to say hi. But he made this post a couple of months ago talking about just how separated the two levels of video production for advisors has been, where on one side, you have to deal with freelancers on Fiverr and you have to come up with all of your scripts. You have to figure out how am I going to do this and how am I going to learn all of it on my own. The other option is you spend mid five figures to have someone else completely do it for you. These are the current solutions. Do it yourself or hire a white glove video agency. And that's what Nick and I have been doing for the last couple of years, has been that high cost per video, but exceptionally high quality and fully outsourced. But we also know that that's prohibitive, especially for the advisors who are really just getting started in their firms. So this was the dilemma that we were faced with at the beginning of this year: is why is there no middle ground where you can still own some of the process, but you can also get the help that you need to skip the learning curve, have leverage AI, and have a video editor. Like at the very least, if we can check those boxes. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about the solution that N2 is providing. But Chris, I also want to talk about Wealthbox a little bit, because we also know that really identifying your client is such an essential component of this.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I could definitely kind of go through some of the things that we had talked about. So let me go ahead and actually, I'll take the screen share, I think, at this point, and get a little bit into Wealthbox. So a couple of things that I had mentioned when I was kind of throwing my hat in the ring a little bit here throughout this conversation. It applies to a couple different areas of Wealthbox, and I wanted to actually share it so that everyone can kind of visualize it a little bit better. Again, for anyone not familiar with Wealthbox, it is a modern CRM for financial advisors. You could go to wealthbox.com to book a demo and really learn more about it. But the general idea is you log into Wealthbox, you're taken to your homepage. So we'll skip some of the basics of Wealthbox, and we'll take a closer look at some of these different features. So one of the first things that I had mentioned is finding that ideal client, and reports, even outside of where you're tracking that information, is an amazing place to track some of that, whether it be just as a couple of examples. I have reports for client services report, anyone involved in estate planning and financial planning, insurance. Where is my client base? Who am I actually realistically working with? I specifically wanted to open up this seminar opportunities example, just because when we do take a closer look at this report, I'm actually tracking things like which seminar did they attend. And this is specific to seminars, but again, this could apply to the information that you have on the contact record. So what are their interests? What is their profession? What are we speaking about? So knowing how much money is coming in from these certain sources, knowing how many clients you're bringing on from these different sources. Maybe you did some sort of a workshop for a tech company 10 years ago, and that's really your tech clients. Now you're more so focused on a completely different demographic. Knowing that information will really allow you to paint that picture. As we go through some of the other capabilities here, right? So charts and graphs and visualizing that individual data is really important. But I did want to quickly just share a notable within dashboards, because it allows us to take these reports and not just focus on one piece of information or on one area of your contacts. I have this marketing dashboard as an example that I've had in Wealthbox for quite a while, but it's a really good example that again shows me the seminars and where that's coming from. And that could be, again, professions that my contacts are part of. And then on the other side of it, I could find out where do they live. Maybe I should create localized videos based on new tax implications that are being rolled out. And so being able to visualize all this on one screen allows you to, as you kind of sit down and you're ready to start creating that next video, take a closer look at the data that you have in here and go from there. Now, shifting a little bit into some of the other capabilities with organizing. While I'm sharing my screen, I figured I'd talk a little bit about that. Within the project's capability in Wealthbox, this is a really, really good example of really tracking everything in one place. And I think that's really the most important part of organizing, is tracking it all in one place and having it be standardized and repeatable. So I do have a project that I created here. Short form video marketing at the very top, completely missed it. And this is just an example where you could use a project and keep it all in one place. You can have multiple workflows running at the same time for different topics, where maybe you had an idea, you had a shower thought of, that would be a really good video. Start that workflow and have it sitting there so that you can progress through that process and know exactly where you are within each process. You could see when you are at the recording stage, when you are at the ideation stage, and really how you are tracking that information. So that's the Wealthbox side of it. I wanted to come full circle back into Wealthbox and kind of showcase some of the features that I did mention earlier. But I wanted to hand it back over to Nate and Nick and talk a little bit more about N2. I know that Nick, you had referenced folks flying out to Denver and filming, and I know there's some exciting stuff that that you were kind of leading up to. So I'll just hand it back over to the two of you to talk a little bit more about what N2 does to help.
Yeah, absolutely. So we mentioned that missing middle ground where you can either pay 5 figures to have someone do it completely for you, which makes a lot of sense for a very specific place in the advisor's journey, or you can completely DIY and get scrappy with it. And the challenge is that when you spend so much time getting scrappy, it's kind of hard to get to that point where you can then really invest in your marketing and have it completely done for you. And there's no middle ground to actually progress you through those stages. That's where Sage comes in. And so Sage is what we're building right now. It's why we've been so focused on AI agents on top of all of the work we've been doing as video producers, video editors, script writers, you name it, is taking all of that information and all of the data that we've collected and distilling it down into a tool that you can use that does all of your ideation, all of your scripting. It helps you organize. You can record your videos and you can edit them. And it's as simple as just logging in and using all of these tools, because Sage is just going to be an app that you can use every single day, where you can track your progress, you can edit your videos, you can use all of our learning materials to skip that learning curve and really step ahead. And I wanted to lead with as many recommendations as possible, because every single one of these pieces of software has fundamentally changed the way that we run our business or the way I work personally. All of these are awesome. And if you subscribe to all of them, I really think you will get a benefit. But I worry that you might spend a lot of time trying to get them to all fit together. So that's where Sage is that one-stop solution to replace all of these tools that you would otherwise need to learn. You can organize all of your videos on the video board. It's not going to be as disorganized or half-baked as my Notion template. It's actually designed specifically for organizing all of your videos. And then you can put an idea in the video board, that shower thought you were talking about, Chris. You have your shower thought, you put it on the video board, and then you come into Sage and you use our AI agents that we've spent way too long working on to actually generate that script for you. And for most advisors, it'll give you 90% of the output. But what I'm realizing very quickly is that for advisors who don't have experience scripting, and this is brand new, it might actually give you 150% or 200%, because it will adhere to all of the best practices that we just shared today. And you're not just going to get content that is specific to advisors. You're going to get content that's specific to you because we've included the Sage profile. The Sage profile is where you add all of that context. You're going to need Wealthbox to pull all of that information. You're going to need to understand your ICP. You're going to need to understand exactly who you want to speak to. But by doing so, you will give the AI all of your context, and then we will give it all of our context on how to actually make a video that converts. The combination is a video that actually grows your firm. And instead of taking all of that opportunity cost to learn how to be an expert video editor, instead you can just upload it to Sage and we'll edit it for you. And it'll be 20 polished short form videos every single month, or you can do long form videos because that's the first thing that we're going to do. I know it's small text. I don't know if you guys spotted it, but under content type, very top left, you can toggle between short form and long form. So if you want to do YouTube, if you want to do Facebook, if you want to do TikTok, whatever video you're going to be working on, Sage is the thing that is going to make this so much more straightforward for you. And we launch early August. So I mentioned in all of our marketing, Chris, I don't know if Wealthbox included it, but everyone who signs up using this link specifically is going to get priority access to Sage. So you guys are going to be our Wealthbox attendees. You are going to be the first people to join if it's something that interests you. You can scan the QR code or it's sage.n2contentmarketing.com. And we actually have plenty of time to do questions because I see some really good questions in the list. I'm excited to jump into that.
Yeah, there definitely are, and we'll just leave this up for a couple of minutes here as we take a closer look at some of these questions. I did see a couple of questions on a little bit of the scripting process, right? And I'll kind of combine a couple of questions here. There was a question to kind of redefine LLM. What was that? Since it was kind of used a couple of times, but this really interesting question is running through an example of the workflow using the various AI agents or models, starting from training the model and how we want the videos to really essentially getting a ready script, right? So when we take the actual topic, take that, run it through one system, then run that through Perplexity to double check, then run that through the actual scripting output. And I know that we just looked at Sage, and Sage I think is a really good solution to all of this. But high level, what models are we hitting to get a script going?
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly think talking about using this page simply because it shows a workflow, and then I'll talk about it at a really high level. So at the end of the day, you're going to need an instruction set. So when you open up ChatGPT on the left side, you're going to have an option called projects. Same thing with Claude. So you can put all of your instructions in there. That's the first thing that Claude or ChatGPT will do when you give that project a prompt, is it will go look at the instructions first, right? Then you can give it an attachment. The challenge with baseline ChatGPT is that it doesn't always actually read the attachment, but it kind of says it does. And so it kind of likes to pretend that it read all of the context that you gave it. So we got very specific about that, and we made it so that the file gets downloaded and transcribed in an LLM-friendly format. The same goes with the voice memo. So one of the things you can do when you script in Sage is you can actually just brain dump all of your thoughts in a voice memo, and then it will use that as context for the script. So when we talk about the workflow, let's say you're using ChatGPT. So you need to be in a project, you need to have the instructions, and then you need to make sure that it's actually reading any attachments that you give it. You will use those to actually build the final prompt, right? So the everything that you actually provide to the LLM. Then you should probably be choosing the best one. So Nick mentioned it at a high level, but really ChatGPT is probably the best one for ideation. And then Claude, especially, is it Opus 4, Nick?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Claude Opus 4 is fantastic for scripting specifically. So using the right model to get the right output is really, really important. And then Nick also mentioned validating your web search. So making sure that if it gives you a citation, it's actually real. And then referencing the knowledge base. So this is kind of how I would walk through it. And you can do this in a project. We did. where you have the instructions, you have the knowledge base, you make sure it takes your attachment, you pick the best LLM model to actually get it. That's how you will get a really high quality script. You can do this manually, but that's where agents are really setting themselves apart, is only having to set it up once and then you just script requested, script received.
Perfect. Thank you. And I'll actually share my screen once again just for some follow-up contact information for anyone that would like to follow up with either Wealthbox or N2. We'll have that on the left and the right. I did see a couple of questions, and I'm trying to kind of combine a couple, but it did look like there was a couple of questions on the background, right? The video background, and some videos have soft lighting behind, and Nick, you have that behind you right now. What is the recommendation when creating short form video for a background? Should I be standing outside in front of a building? What's the best? What are some recommendations?
Yeah. Well, if you're recording in your office, we'd love to see you having two things, bare minimum. One is a plant. Green plants build trust for some reason. It's psychological. As long as you have a plant back there, you're going to do pretty good. Number two is accent lighting. Like you can see, I have one and then two back here. Just soft, warm light will really help light up your background to make sure it's not super dark. Nate, what else would you add to that?
Yeah, I mean, the plants make sense. It proves that you can take care of at least one thing that's a little bit finicky. If you can do that for a plant, you can probably do it for a business. You can probably do it for someone's money, right? You have that care and that consistency that allows things to grow. So I love having plants. As you can see, I have plenty crawling up my wall. The other thing I would say is shooting in a corner. So I love having some sort of corner in the shot because it adds a little bit of asymmetry. It also allows you to add depth in a smaller room. So if any of you work in an office, if you're right up against your wall, then it's going to look really foreshortened, right? You're going to look kind of big against the wall, and it's going to make you look kind of disproportionately tall in there. So by filming into the corner, you're going to get more depth in a smaller room and you're going to get some really nice asymmetry.
Oh, really good examples. Thank you. I want to address there was a Wealthbox question here in regards to some best practices around Wealthbox. And so this is actually just in reference to recent webinars that we have hosted that were internal, not necessarily internal, but they were just Wealthbox webinars on best practices. Definitely recommend heading over to wealthbox.com under the resources section at the top. You can find webinar events. We did an entire series on workflows and best practices around that. Earlier this week, we did one on reports, which actually applies to what we had talked about today. And we'll be continuing to do more and more of those. So just keep an eye out on some of those upcoming just Wealthbox webinars that we're hosting just around best practices. There was a question that came up here in regards to Sage pricing. What is that going to look like?
Yeah, so it needs to be middle ground, right? Like we were talking about Justin's comment of paying $5,000 just to get some video editing that was clearly just put into Opus Clips or something of that sort. So we are pricing it at $250 a month if you pay monthly, and then $200 a month if you pay annually for all of the AI tools and that sort of thing. If you want video editing, so you want to do 20 short form videos or 4 long form videos, that kind of thing, that's going to be $950 a month. And for reference, when I was actively producing videos, I was spending anywhere between $1,200 and $1,500 a month on having someone help me manage it, managing the Fiverr editors, having some videos that were more expensive than others. It wasn't a flat 1,200 bucks or 1,500 bucks. It was different every month. I had no idea what was coming down the pipe, even though I was doing the same quantity of videos. So we want to keep it really consistent, not less than $1,000 a month to get all of your video production needs fully met. And something I actually didn't mention in there, because I keep talking about skipping the learning curve, is our consulting. So all of our project managers, all of our script writers, the people who work constantly at N2 for these advisors who are taking part in our white glove service, they are also going to be consultants on the platform. So you can submit a script and say, I think this is good, but how would you change it? And someone like David, one of our script writers, who's also a CFP, he's actually not a CFP yet, but he's getting there. He's written hundreds and hundreds of scripts for advisors. He's just going to weigh in and say, these are the things that I would change. So that's kind of the full view with the pricing.
Awesome. Thank
Um,
you. And yeah, I know we're a little bit over time, but I did see some very quick hitter questions here. I think we could go
yeah,
through just a really interesting one. If you're recording multiple videos in one sitting, do you change your shirt? Do you change angles? Any thought on changing up your appearance a little bit?
it's a good question. Nick and I actually just filmed 60 videos, something like that, on Monday. And we did a couple of outfit changes. I wore two different shirts. And then Nick, I think you were in two different, right?
I had three different ones.
Three different ones. Yeah. So I
Mhm.
would say somewhere to the tune of once every 15 to 10 videos, it's worth changing your shirt. And once you really get rolling, you can do 30 or 40 videos in a day of filming, and you'd change your shirt 4 times, that kind of thing.
Perfect. And just to be respectful of everyone's time, I know we're a little bit over time here. Just a quick FYI for everyone, we are going to be downloading the Q&A report. So if you didn't get an answer, we will be reaching out, we'll be following up. But thank you all so much for joining us. Tons of great questions. Nate and Nick, thank you both so much. I always enjoy having these conversations with you guys. So thank you both so much for co-hosting with me and sharing a lot of your insights on a lot of this. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, Chris, it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time with us today. And thank you everyone for joining us. This was such a blast. If you guys have any follow-up questions, that's my email address. It will go right to my inbox. And I love answering this type of thing for advisors because at the end of the day, this is why we're doing it, right? We're doing it so that the qualified, smart people who do this for a job are spreading information instead of the people who are trying to run scams and schemes. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks everyone. Have a good one.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.